Hi, I'm Ryan Davis,
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan, how are you?
I'm so relieved that you're back in the U.S. of A.,
Oh.
Ryan. I mean, you've been down in Mexico City for so long. You've got a great tan.
I do.
You've got taco fixins all over your shirt.
I smell like old margaritas. No,
I mean, that's how
just
you.
typical. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you smell at your best moments. Ryan, I'm so excited today because we are talking about one of my favorite topics today.
Wow Airlines.
No, you're jumping ahead to the recalculating. We're not there yet. No, we're talking about caves. Caves 101.
Caves.
What it takes to spelunk, how you find the great caves to visit, and why you should be visiting all the caves you can.
We're going to take you deep down into some of the darkest, dankest caves.
It's going to be a deep dive into caves.
Yeah, exactly.
But Ryan, you did do the teaser, which is we have a major recalculating. So
Yeah.
I think we got to hit the button.
All right, let's do it.
Recalculating.
All right, Ryan, now you know what recalculating is, right?
It means something has happened with Wow Airlines.
No, usually you say I've gotten something wrong.
Yeah, you've gotten something wrong. Yeah.
No, I haven't gotten anything wrong. Recalculating is the segment where we sometimes revisit a topic that we've talked about before and give an update. Yes, sometimes we've said something mistaken or we want to add a little extra color. Often you've made the mistake. Occasionally I have. But in this case, we are not talking about a mistake that was made. We are giving an update on Wow Airlines. Now, you remember how affectionate for Wow Airlines I am.
Well, you love a discount carrier, and WoW is one of those great discount characters, or was one, I should say.
That's right. So Wow, it was the Iceland carrier, right? Responsible for shuttling tons and tons, especially American.
Those beautiful purple jets.
That's
that
right.
used to just sort of like, I guess they were just broken down on the runways all around the country.
Yeah, you would see the deltas taking off among a graveyard.
Yeah, and you see people just pushing WoWs with their hands, just trying to get them out of there.
Well, Ryan, there has been a major update on WoW.
Yeah.
WoW went under, and
Right.
as it happens, that has had tremendous impact on the Iceland economy. So, though you laugh at my my affection for this budget airline, I want to just give you a taste of what the New York Times is reporting.
Wait,
So-
this budget airline is so important to Iceland that's caused problems?
That's exactly yeah.
That's
It's-
amazing.
It's going down. I knew I had to bring it to the podcast right when I saw the headline. It said Iceland's purple planes are grounded, and with them, its economy.
Whoa.
Whoa, first of all, kudos to that headline writer. That person knows what they're doing.
Well, I think that we've just discovered the solution for over-tourism, and that's just put the WoW
Oh.
CEO in charge of the airplane industry.
Yeah, or just shut down whatever local airline you
Yeah.
have, whatever makes
Yeah.
it convenient for people to visit you.
if
Just get
Delta's-
rid of that.
If Delta's not around, nobody's ever going back to Atlanta.
That's
I'm
right.
telling you.
So, Ryan, WoW Airline it went under 5 months ago in
Right.
March. And as it happens, just to give you some context, WoW apparently carried more than a fourth of all international visitors to Iceland.
So a quarter of the people who were coming to Iceland internationally came through one of these big old purple planes.
Yeah, the Barney planes, if it actually managed to take off.
Right.
And so as a result, now these folks, their only other options are expensive international airlines. And,
Right.
and I know I have flown Iceland Air before, and Iceland Air can cost a pretty penny.
And a lot of these international airlines don't stop in Iceland for no reason. They're not like, oh, we're going to do a little stop in Iceland. Like that was sort of WoW's strategy for a while, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And so the New York Times goes on to say that Iceland may actually be facing a recession, partly because of this tremendous drop in visitors. So just to give you a sense, there's been a 16% drop in international visitorship to Iceland and a 20% drop from Americans visiting Iceland.
I mean, that's sort of like the Expedia effect, right? Because it used to be if you were just searching for places to go, Iceland would pop up, can be a pretty cheap flight on WoW Air, and now that doesn't happen, right? It's going to send you to Barcelona instead. So does the article give any information about, does Iceland have a plan? Are they going to try to revive? I'd heard that WoW was going to be maybe revived anyway.
Yeah, I think on a previous recalculating, we
Right.
talked about that. And no, as of right now, there are not any clear plans. I think it is in the air that WoW might be coming back, but well, not in the air. Sorry, that makes it a little too blatant.
WoW's anything but in the air.
But I think this brigades of restaurant runners and souvenir sellers and tour guides, they're gonna be facing a long cold winter in Iceland because there's other places to go on cheaper flights. I mean, here we got Ryanair, we got Ryanair. You would think you would like discount flying. Actually, it's your namesake.
I have been on a Ryanair flight once. Yeah.
Do you know that Ryanair once they put in a patent for standing room planes?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so that they could pack you in like IKEA furniture,
I mean, anybody who's been on the New York City subway, that doesn't seem so bad.
No, that's true.
Those rides can take 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah,
so.
pretty spacious.
Yeah.
You seem pretty down on NYC these days. Everything okay?
Everything's great, thanks.
Your mayor's going to be the next president of the United States.
Oh, yeah, right. You see he logged 7 hours at City Hall last month?
Oh, my God, that's horrible. So, Ryan, I'm wondering, I mean, do we have any creative ideas for how Iceland might juice their tourism back? I mean, is this the time for us to launch Out of Office Air?
Oh, air?
That's right. And, no onboard entertainment.
Just podcast.
Just the two of us on every flight.
Right. We stop with the captain and we just interview him the whole time.
Live commenting.
Them.
That's right. You got to have both. And we'll have to do it partially in Icelandic because I believe they pull a fair amount of their pilots from the island themselves.
Well, I think Mayor Pete speaks Icelandic, so that shouldn't we could just bring him along with us.
Is that true?
I'm sure he claims it.
Yeah. Oh, Mayor Pete not doing too well these days either.
No. He should be running for president of Iceland.
He does have. When you go to Iceland, there's a certain kind of magical, elvish kind of charm there. He actually would fit really well in these little waterfalls.
He would just need the charm.
Oh, brutal! Oh my God, this is not the side of you we show on this podcast.
Now, Kiernan, are there any caves in Iceland?
There are. I visited an ice cave in Iceland, but that is actually beyond the scope of today's cave. Today we're going to be talking about rock caves, geological features.
Right.
That have
ice caves. That's a whole other episode.
Ice caves that might be caves 102. Ice caves.
Ice caves and ice caves too.
But before we head into the topic of the day, Ryan, I do have to ask. Now that I've imparted this knowledge to you, the central pillar of Iceland's economy that WoW Airlines stood for, does this mean that in future episodes you will show a bit more respect to WoW Airlines?
I think that WoW Airlines is going to protect Iceland for future generations to visit by making it harder to get to.
Oh, so you think that WoW is actually it's helping climate change? It's killing over tourism. It's you don't see why Iceland's complaining.
I don't see WoW as the problem. I see WoW as a solution.
All right. Well, I like that is a more positive take. So I'm going to end on that note. I think it's time that we've got to get to the takeoff because I am so anxious. I'm getting really hot. I want to get down under. I want to cool down in a nice, cool cave.
Well, I think flight attendants, it's time to take off.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan. We are talking about Caves 101. I have to say, we're coming up on our year anniversary. I'm actually kind of shocked that I have not made us do this episode earlier because Catherine would tell you when we are going on vacation, spotting a cave, visiting a cave, working in a cave tour is one of my top priorities.
I didn't know this about you. I don't know that we've gone deep into caves together before.
Well, you and I each have what we might generously term a sweating problem. Where, even when
are we being that personal here in the pod?
We are. We're going to be honest. When it's like above 40 degrees, a balmy 40 degrees, we each have, an undershirt to capture all that moisture and make sure we don't embarrass ourselves. One thing I love about going down to caves is they typically are nice and cool.
Wouldn't it get warmer as you get down closer to the center of the earth, or that takes a while? That takes a while.
How deep do you think these caves
I don't know.
are?
I don't know.
To be honest, yes, there are hot caves.
Right.
But in general, when you go down, it will be a nice, cooler temperature, and if nothing else, it gets you out of the sun.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think that's a huge benefit. Then it's like the anti-beach.
So I've established that I've been to many caves, and I do also want to put a pinpoint before I ask you this question because I think you might try to stretch the truth here. We're not talking about visiting mines. Okay, there are mines that coal mines that you can visit.
No, we're going to do a whole episode on mines. Well, I mean, as a child, for a decade or 2 decades, I was a child laborer in a mining camp.
That actually explains that sort of smoker's cough you have.
Yeah.
So it's
What all kids do in Maryland, to work
so
their way through school.
so it's actually a light black lung.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
See now that's
vape lung.
We do not want people looking back at your professional track too much. All right, so Ryan, I don't want to hear about any artificial sort of enclosure inside the earth.
Real caves.
So I'm going to ask you: have you visited any caves?
So I racked my brain to think of other caves that I've been to besides Luray Caverns in Virginia.
Well, why would that's a great one? I've been to that one. Why would you rack your brain beyond that?
Well, it was like one of those trips that you went on when you were in like middle school and high school. That was like one of the places that it was like the Baltimore Inner Harbor, the Baltimore Aquarium, Luray Caverns. Those are like the three things you could do.
Yeah, the local crab fest. And
love that crab fest.
The crab mallet store. That must be a major destination.
I mean, mallets in Maryland are really quite works of art.
Maryland mallets. It's a fantastic souvenir. It fits all 3 P's of a great souvenir. Do you remember what they are? Price, portability, and potency. And if I know anything about a crab mallet, highly potent.
Highly potent.
I can see you're blushing over there. Okay, so did you hit any? So you've been to Luray Caverns in Virginia. Any others?
I don't think so. Luray stands out for me though because it was on this trip that I lost my gay virginity.
What does that mean?
It was the first time I was ever with another guy. It was
you sat on a stalagmite by accident?
No. My mom and my dad and me and my friend, who I'm sure wishes to not be named. We went to Luray Caverns when I was 15, and my friend's parents thought it would be funny if my friend and I had our own hotel room. So if they splurged for the night at the Econo Lodge Luray or whatever it was. And I had my own hotel room, and it was there that I went spelunking for the first time.
Oh my goodness! So it wasn't in the cave. My understanding when you first said it wasn't in the cave itself.
No, it was just on that trip. If it was in the cave, that would be highly memorable. I mean, it's already pretty memorable, but it would be pretty highly memorable in the cave.
So
it was in the vicinity of the cave. I'm sure at an Econo Lodge or a budget hotel. And that was very close to the cave. And
do you have a profound memory for heading into that dark, humid hole? And I'm talking about the cave.
No, unfortunately, the most of the trip has been usurped by this other incident in it. But Luray Caverns is sort of famous in Delmarva, and people go from miles to see it.
And do you remember any particular moments inside the cave? Do you remember anything about it? Or is there any history, anything you just read?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that Luray Caverns is one of the largest caves on the East Coast. It's surprisingly large for the fact that, there isn't a whole lot else to do around my hometown.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, how far is it from the hometown?
Like just 6 hours.
Yeah. That's how far you have to go to find a cave to visit. And so on my side, we've talked before on the podcast, I think on lesser known national parks. We talked about one great cave system, Wynn Cave National Park. And, there are many caves saved within the national park system. You've got Mammoth, you've got Carlsbad. And I actually have not been able to visit those two. They're high on my list, though. It's hard to convince other people to invest in thousands of dollars into a whole vacation centered on caves.
Yeah, I can imagine, because even Luray Caverns, it takes an hour and you're done.
Yeah, totally. That's right. I remember Luray Caverns being a pretty quick visit. And if I recall correctly, you walk yourself through. You don't go on a guided tour. And so you can really cover it in 30 minutes.
Yeah, you can kind of rush through. But you can also bring small animals with you. So it would be cute to have a little puppy walking around the Luray Caverns.
You could probably really freak out some land animals by bringing them down to a cave where they don't belong.
We're going to a cave.
And close by Wynn Cave is a national memorial called Jewel Cave. That's also a wonderful visit in South Dakota. But later on in the pod, I want to talk about 2 caves. They are the feature destinations if you visit Slovenia. Of course, the birthplace of our current First Lady.
Of course, and known for their natural wine.
Oh, brother. And so Catherine and I went to Slovenia, and we had a great cave debate about which of these two caves to visit, because most of the guidebooks say you should only really put your money on one. And we're going to get to that later in the episode. But first, I want to talk about 5 reasons that I think people should make time to visit caves.
These are the Schmidt 5 reasons to visit caves.
It's definitely a Schmitty 5 reason. So, Ryan, the first reason that I think people should be clearing their schedules, making time for more cave visits, is that I find them to be just so extreme and extraordinarily weird and mysterious, and you feel adventurous when you've been in a cave. It's like a place you go when you're like Indiana Jonesing, you know?
Indiana Jonesing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you want a taste of adventure, I think you want to feel like you escape. You know, you walk through a forest, you kind of go, yeah, this forest is like other forests. There's trees, there's rocks, there's dirt. I think most caves have a personality of their own. And what I find
I think that most caves are just rocks and dirt. Probably, right?
spoken like a person that has been to very few
Cave
caves.
neophyte. Yeah.
No. This is the Great Slovenian Cave Debate is really gonna.
Yeah.
It's gonna open your eyes to
Folks, it's going to be new to me too, so I'm excited to hear about it.
the vast differences. And another thing is that I think it's very hard to find places that are still new, right? Like we've talked about over-tourism. The reason places are getting over-touristed is because like it's
There's not enough
easier.
new places.
There's not that many new places, right? Everything's been discovered. You can reach places fairly easily, whereas caves are still being discovered.
Yeah, so I read your research for this, and you claim that 1,000 new caves are discovered each year.
That's right, and that is according to the National Speleological Society. Which
Are they counting? Are they counting like a deep hole as a cave? Like, there must be some sort of minimum because it just seems like 1,000 caves. We would just all be living in caves everywhere we'd walk. Would be caves everywhere. I just don't see how that's possible. It's not that big of a country.
I mean, I found it pretty shocking too. Let me.
I mean, I came home from work today, no caves on my way here. Although we do have some potholes in Brooklyn that could double as caves.
Oh man, we're getting the full Ryan Davis stand-up routine today. Well, Ryan, to be honest, I don't know. It would take a little more research for me to tell you exactly what the National Speleological Society says it defines a cave as. But not to be silly, but the National Speleological Society, it's part of this kind of underworld of cave enthusiasts that exists.
Underworld.
And I think you can probably find different definitions for caves across different organizations.
Well, our good friends at the National Park Service define a cave as an opening in the earth large enough to hold a person.
Oh, well.
If that's true, when I was a kid, I dug caves all the time in my, my local forest.
Regularly, the dog creating new caves out in the back. This is how National Speleological Society stays in business.
They just dig holes on the weekend. Look, honey, we made some caves.
I mean, another kind of extraordinary stat that comes from them is that in the U.S. alone, there are 55,500 caves. I mean, this is, you're talking about a pandemic of caves.
You're never too far from a cave.
No, so to this point, you're never too far from a cave, right?
Yeah.
So you got 55,500 all around you at all times. You look to your left, look to your right. You've just seen 2 caves. And also, I don't know about you, but caves kind of taps into something that I remember from my childhood. I was always very obsessed with kind of like goblins. I really liked Fraggle Rock. It all took place in a cave, and I think that sort of magical quality is still something that you can achieve when visiting a cave, because you can learn so much about these kind of foreign worlds that are just below our feet, apparently all the time.
Yeah, and you know what's sort of funny? We talked about Alexander Hamilton, and we talked about Hoboken, and we said, hey, there's not going to be a whole lot of other reasons to go to Hoboken. Guess what? Closest cave to New York? Sybil's Cave in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Well, we were talking about Weehawken in that episode.
What's the difference? I mean, what's the difference? They're the same.
Jersey is Jersey. That's always been our viewpoint on this podcast.
You can see Weehawken from Hoboken. They're pretty, they're like literally the same place.
I actually remember, to your point about caves inside New York City, you're comparing some of the potholes. Very funny. Great joke back there. But I also remember when the High Line was created. The High Line, for anyone not familiar with New York, is the industrial above-ground bridge that was turned into a park and a popular tourist destination. There's also a suggestion from 2 Yale grads for a low line, which is to take a abandoned subway tunnel and to turn it into an underground walkway where they pipe in sunlight and they grow mushrooms, kind of creating an urban cave.
But not a cave under your definition because it's man-made.
Yeah, you caught me there. So it's not quite a cave, but I'm just trying to say that there are caves everywhere.
There are apparently also caves in Inwood Hill Park. I mean, we could do a whole episode called Caves in New York. It would be short because it'd be like 3 of them, but
Okay, so Ryan, number one, caves are extreme, extraordinarily weird, still
Right.
being discovered and ubiquitous. So wherever you are, you're probably in a cave.
or you're just a couple hours digging away from having your own cave,
All right. So the second reason, I'm
Right.
sure when you visited Luray, you got a taste of this, was caves are one of the best places to learn about geology.
Right. It's a study of rocks.
I mean, it's like I have a scientist as a co-host. Yeah. Yep. Geology is the study of rocks. And of course, caves are formed by, basically you take a limestone, you add thousands of years of drips of water or underground rivers, it wears away the rocks, and it creates all of these spectacular formations. So the two that everybody knows, of course, are stalactite and stalagmite.
Right. And one of them grows up and one of them grows down.
And which are which?
Stalagmite is on top.
Because stalagmite fall on you and kill you, right?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, that's wrong. Stalactite is on top
Oh,
because it has to hold tight to the ceiling so that it doesn't fall below.
Oh.
And a stalagmite, often coming below a stalagmite, comes from the minerals that collect beneath it, and then over centuries, many eventually meet and create quite extraordinary pillars.
So hold on tight to the stalactite, and because it's up above you. Right? That's a good way to remember it.
Yeah, and you stalagmite trip and impale yourself on the stalagmite on the ground. These are great.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting and what makes caves so differentiated from one another, and why I don't think, visiting one cave is just as good as visiting another, is because there are all types of geological rock formations that can be specific to a cave system itself. So there's a whole language and vocabulary and community around this sort of study. And I have often found that caves will give kind of creative and colorful names to describe these different formations that appear so that visitors can find them approachable and learn about them when they visit. So a couple that kind of stick with me, Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota is renowned for what they call box work. What's so interesting is that basically harder rock filled in these fissures in the ceiling, and then over centuries, water and over centuries, water and erosion wore away the weaker rock in between. So it leaves you looking up into thousands and thousands of these beautiful boxes. And as you can imagine, I will be filling the Out of Office podcast Instagram this week with tons of great box pictures.
They really do look like massive honeycombs.
Yeah, they're just
sort of
beautiful.
delicious looking. Yeah.
Well, and doesn't it almost look like industrially created? It doesn't look like what you typically think of as a natural formation.
No, I mean it's hard to imagine it forming naturally. That's very cool.
And just down the road at Jewel Cave, they have what they call popcorn. And as you would guess from the name, it's rock formations that actually really strongly resemble popcorn. They're these kind of white nodules. And, Jewel Cave particularly gets very creative.
I mean, I think popcorn is like a charitable way to, it could be like a polyp. It looks like you might have to go check your go to your doctor or something.
Sure.
Yeah,
no, good point. I mean, they could call it rock prostate. But you're right. It does actually resemble something of a polyp. But figuring if you go up close,
a polyp cave is going to be less. People are not going to want to visit it as much.
No, less enticing.
Yeah.
I think that's why they called it Jewel Cave instead of Polyp Cave, Polyp Caverns. But I'll tell you right.
Go up and discover your polyps.
I do think you're looking from further away, and when you get up close, it does actually look like those little bumps on popcorn. And they also have these like thin rock that look like balloons They have mineral straws that actually are these hollowed out little cylinders. And probably the most memorable feature is what they call cave bacon. And sure
I'm sorry,
enough,
what?
they
Cave
call
bacon?
it cave bacon.
Ooh.
And what it is
Gotta get those polyps if you eat too much of the bacon. You got to be careful.
it's a good point. It's actually the cycle that they teach you, the rock cycle. Kind of my favorite features. I mean, yeah, as you would guess, Jewel Cave kind of takes its name from the crystals that line its walls. So as you
Right.
kind of look at the light bouncing off the walls, it is quite extraordinary. You kind of get the feeling like you're surrounded by diamonds. But they also have this feature, cave bacon, and cave bacon is basically these ribbons of minerals that are thin enough that light shines through them, and they actually appear to have those brown striations that they actually look like giant slabs of bacon.
That's delicious. Although you might lose your appetite after walking through the fields of polyps to get to the cave bacon.
Yeah. That's right. Well, one leads to the other, right? I mean, it's the great geological processes that you can only learn in caves. And I often find that if you're able to take a tour at a cave, usually your guide is going to be very well versed in the specific geological formations. And they'll teach you a lot about the interaction of the minerals, the rocks, and the water that are specific to that location, which gives it kind of its particular charm.
Can I ask a dumb question about caves?
I mean, of course, that really is your primary role.
That's true. Are some caves like more saltwater focused, or are they all like freshwater caves? Because like, wouldn't that make a big difference to the kind of like formations that were inside?
Well, there definitely are saltwater caves along the coasts, but primarily the caves are caused by fresh water that are flowing through. Because rivers are freshwater. They're created by water coming down from sort of mountain watersheds.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
But you do have in coastlines, you do have the ocean creating caverns and grottos along. However, I can't say that I have spent much time in grottos. That's why this isn't grottos 1-on-1. This isn't grottos 101. I am not prepared to lead that discussion.
It seems like most of the caves that are saltwater focused are actually underwater entirely.
But I guess there probably do have to be places where the saltwater and the freshwater meet. I know in a body of water you call that an estuary, but I would imagine caves must be formed in places like that too.
Yeah, in a cave you apparently call that a hylocline.
A hylocline? How do you spell that?
Halcline.
Actually, a perfect segue, Ryan, into the third reason that I think caves are so much fun. And that's because you learn lots of different and exciting new types of vocabulary.
All the words are too hard with caves.
No, they're so fun. So, for example, spelunker, right? First of all, just probably one of my favorite words in the English language.
Spelunker is a cool word.
Probably one of my favorite words in the English language. And a spelunker, of course, is a person who goes into caves. And you can be an amateur. You don't have to be some sort of professional to call yourself a spelunker.
No, are there classes you can take? You can do a little, do a 4-credit class on spelunking.
Absolutely. And in fact, in a number of caves that I've been at, they will have a special spelunking tour that you can do. It's extra long, but oftentimes you have to be willing to squeeze and go on all fours and go deeper into the cave system. So you really can't be somebody who, has any sort of claustrophobia.
Or a Thai soccer team.
Oh, yeah. No. Wow. That's an obscure reference, but I like it. I'm sure those boys, they got rescued. So it's a happy story.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Elon Musk, if I remember correctly, Elon Musk saved every single one of them with his own 2 hands.
That's right. He developed a special submarine that went in and one by one rescued each one of them.
Incredible.
That's why he's such a hero to the world.
He really is.
And Ryan, so you've got spelunker. That's the word that I tend to use very often. But you also have speleologists.
A what?
Speleologists. So earlier I was talking about statistics. I mentioned the National Speleological Society. Well, these are.
I was thinking you were talking about the National Spelunker Society.
No.
Those guys are bums. Those guys have no data.
The speleologists are really more concentrated on discovering and mapping full cave systems.
Right.
So they visit caves, but often with a little bit more scientific rigor.
Right.
And what's so interesting, too, is not only are new caves being discovered all the time, I believe the statistic is something like every 30 seconds, a new cave is being discovered.
There's so many caves discovered in this episode, we can't cover them all.
No, we're going to have to just continually be making new cave-related episodes. And many existing caves are also continually being mapped because they go so far into the earth or new openings are opening up that it can be very complicated to actually get the full picture of a cave system that can go for miles under the earth.
I mean, these days, they must not have to go down there and map it. There must be like machines that shoot like radio waves off of walls and build like three-dimensional ideas of what the cave looks like, right? I don't know. I'm just thinking there's like bats. That's what bats do. They throw sound against the wall, right? Wouldn't that be what we do? I'm not an engineer, Kiernan. I'm not a spelunker or a speleologist.
So, Ryan, yeah, to your point about sort of learning from bats, very canny suggestion. Modern speleologists do use things like electronic laser rangefinders,
Sure,
which
yeah.
can basically feed data, which can basically feed data into portable computers that they bring with them into caves. And there are, what might be called technologically advanced doohickeys that are used to survey using lasers,
Sonar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's important to note a lot of mapping work goes on by amateur or volunteer surveyors, and these tools can be beyond the means of those folks. So those amateurs are often using more kind of primitive tools, but there have been advancements, and we've talked often on about LiDAR technology, and that is also making its way into cave systems. So I expect there will be great revolutions in the accuracy of cave mappings. And you can be guaranteed that we will investigate it further in recalculatings of future episodes.
Right. And it does seem actually that if you're going spelunking, a compass is a good way to get your bearings because GPS won't penetrate the rock.
Another vocabulary word that I discovered in researching this episode that I just really wanted to share with you, it's called bathyphobia. Bathyphobia is a fear of volume. So a place with large depths, maybe stairways or deep caves.
Right.
So folks who have bathyphobia, and I'm sure that we must have some bathophobics among our listeners.
I'm a bit bathophobic.
Are you a bit bathophobic?
Well, I'm agoraphobic. No, I'm afraid of heights.
Well, that's not the same.
Well, that's strange though, because like isn't if you're really really tall, isn't it like the volume of like nothingness below you still similar to like being in a cave, right?
Oh wow, that's really philosophical difference. So the great emptiness from when you're standing on a skyscraper, does that count as the great volume that falls into bathyphobia?
It seems similar to me. It is true though. When I was in Moscow and you go down the Russian escalators into the subway, it's at like a 90 degree. It is so steep that I had to close my eyes and hold on and just pretend that I wasn't on an escalator because I couldn't. If I looked, I feared I was just going to pass out. And just
wow, that's so extreme.
Yeah, super extreme.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, no, I as far as I can tell, what you have is acrophobia, which is a fear of heights. But it does sound like from that escalator suggestion, you might also be bathophobic. So this is very exciting. We've introduced you to a new phobia you have, making you even less capable about going out into the world.
My therapist is going to love this episode.
That's funny because you go to a therapist who probably plumbs the depths of your being, and if you had a fear of depth, you'd be bathophobic. It's very ironic. All right, Ryan, we got just two more reasons that I think folks should be visiting caves. Caves should be more celebrated among destinations. The fourth, and this is one of my personal favorites, is there are so many weird animals that you can only find in caves. So, Ryan, you know that BBC series Planet Earth?
Sure.
One of the best ones is all about caves. And what makes it such a fascinating episode is because it investigates all of the amazing adaptations that have evolved in animals who live uniquely in caves. So many of them are descended from, common ancestors with ground animals. But then once they go under cave, they don't need a lot of what you need to survive up above. So, for example, a lot of cave animals will lose their body pigmentation because underground there's no light. That's
Wait, is this what happened to Trump supporters? Is this how they got how they?
Oh, wow. So, over time, these animals start losing the pigmentation that is needed from exposure to sunlight. Similarly, they can't see. They can't see where there's no light, so they lose their eyesight, or they have incredibly horrible eyesight because the darkness of caves renders eyes virtually unnecessary.
Right. Sure.
And then finally, you will often find animals have extremely slow metabolic activity when they live in caves. And this is because there's not great amount of vegetation to eat there. So the body has been transformed to get at the most out of each nutrient it can take in. And one of my favorite creatures that we're going to talk about in just a moment is it's called an olm. Have you ever heard of it? Yeah.
No.
So an olm is a little white blind salamander. And
I love it.
They are incredibly cute, actually. And they have these little gills along their heads. And they are sort of the perfect example of this. They are pure as the driven snow. They have no eyesight. They can actually survive a decade without eating.
By the way, there's another name for these olms, and that is a cave salamander.
Well, sure, but if I said cave salamander, you'd be undercutting my third point about cool words associated with caves, like olms, OLM.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it is super cool. You know what it was originally called when it was discovered?
No.
Dragon's larva, which is pretty cool.
Oh, like a little baby dragon, because it looks like a little baby dragon.
Yeah, dragon larva.
And hang on to those olm thoughts, Ryan, because that's going to come into deep play when we investigate the great two-cave Slovenian debate. So, Ryan, when you think of cave animals that meet some of these requirements, you've got
llamas.
No, nope. I've never heard of a cave llama.
There's no llamas, and folks, I'm on to him here. There's no llamas this time. Okay.
No,
usually it's a trick question.
You've mentioned the first, which of course bats. You got bats who have famously developed
famously blind, amazing sonar capabilities.
That's right, echolocation. The bats are all about it.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I've given you the traits, and now I got to give you the word. The word for animals that have adapted to living in caves. It's great. You ready?
I'm ready.
Troglofauna.
Troglofauna.
Yeah. So
when you were going through that list for a moment, when you were talking about how pale they were, how they have bad eyesight, how they have slow metabolic activity, I thought you were talking about me. Like I was like, wait a minute, have I been living in a cave?
No, Ryan. No. Some of these creatures have hair. So
no, they don't need hair down there. How do they know they're blind?
No, bats have plenty of hair.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, bats are disgusting.
Bats
really.
are. If there's one thing we can agree on. Yeah. Bats are disgusting.
Cave salamanders are awesome because they're dragon's larvae, but nothing to do with bats.
You also have whole systems of creatures that live based solely on the ecosystem created by bat dung, called guano. So you have spiders, these kind of scorpion insects that live and thrive off the food chain that exists solely in this weird, wonderful world.
Are any of them edible?
Are any of the cave creatures edible? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. I mean, is that the reason why like the salamander only has to eat every 10 years? Because it's like, not much down there to nibble on?
Really couldn't tell you.
I'm going to Google.
I genuinely couldn't tell you if you could eat. I think if you were trapped in a cave, you probably could eat an olm, though I have to think it wouldn't be too pleasant going down.
I'm Googling for recipes.
What did Melissa Clark cook up using olms last week? And Ryan, I want to just quickly touch on the fifth and final reason why people should be visiting caves. We've alluded to it, not only the sweating problem. You can get a nice, cool respite on a hot day by visiting a cave, but also no need for sunscreen.
Oh.
I mean, for people like you, people who are
people like me. I wear sunscreen everywhere because I want to have nice skin as an adult. For
people like you and me, troglofauna like us. Actually, troglofauna like us wouldn't have been a bad tagline for the podcast. For troglofauna like us, it is nice to have one less thing to carry around. So I love visiting a cave because I can leave the sunscreen back at the hotel.
Now, you say no sweating, but there are plenty of caves where they're incredibly hot.
It's a fair point. I believe I said that there were some exceptions, but tell me about those hot caves.
For instance, there's a cave in Mexico called the Crystal Cave that gets up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And let me tell you, that's a little warm for me. That doesn't seem great.
And is it from geothermic activity? And I believe that cave is incredibly hot because of magma that's very close to the cave itself, right? So geothermal activity can make a cave quite hot.
Yeah, and if you're in this cave for too long, the fluids inside your lungs will condense, and apparently that's fatal. So...
Well, it is fair to end my 5 list that you're right. While you can leave your sunscreen at home, there are safety precautions that you should be taking. A hard hat, a good light, and you want to make sure that the liquids inside your lungs don't condense.
That's always just a good rule of thumb,
I thought we could end by talking about what I term the Great Cave Slovenian Debate. And that is when you visit Slovenia, there are 2 caves. Big tourist attractions. One is the most popular tourist attraction in Slovenia.
Whoa.
And if you read the guidebooks, you do your research, folks say you should either choose one or the other. So first, you have...
Reason to come back.
Oh, well, that's true. You do always have a reason to come back if you only choose to do one. So the first cave is called Postojna.
Postojna.
That's right. And that's right. And it's spelled Postojna. And this is an area where you're going to see huge stalagmites and stalactites. But it is a bit more touristy, where instead of kind of like hiking your way through, you get on this little underground train, and they basically they kind of run you through 3 miles of the 12 miles that are in this cave system. And it also has some of those specific geological formations that you can only see here. So they have something they call melting ice cream formations that looks just like a rock ice cream melting on a hot day. They have something called the Spaghetti Hall, the organ. So all of these kind of cool, neat things that you can only see there. But the main selling point, the point that really pulled at my heartstrings and made me feel that we had to visit, was that remember how we were talking about olms earlier? Those little, those little
cave
lizards?
salamander?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
They actually have an aquarium where they put olms. And so you're guaranteed to see olms in the one place in the world that you can actually see them, because they only come from Slovenia.
I'm just imagining that these are like everywhere in caves, and it comes to find out that you have to go all the way to Slovenia to see one. Like,
Yeah, you have to go all the way to Slovenia to see olms. And you're guaranteed to see them if you go to Postojna, because they have an aquarium where they've set it up. And in fact,
that seems like it's breaking the rules of that's human interference in the cave, and therefore this is really an underground zoo, not a cave.
No. This is an aquarium that caps off a wonderful visit to a natural cave system at Postojna. And it's great as a tourist, because you are guaranteed the ability to see this once in a lifetime animal. And interestingly, they rotate them in. They rotate out new olms every 4 months in and out of this aquarium. And during that whole period, they do not feed them.
Well, they don't eat for 10 years. So what do they care about 4 months?
Yeah,
they live 100 years. They barely even notice they're in the cage at all.
Yeah, no, fair, exactly right. And so, in fact, I would think it would be nice as an olm to break up that very long lifetime by looking forward to your time in the aquarium.
Yeah, at least you get to they can't even see that people are looking at them because they're blind as bats.
It's
they're blind as cave salamanders. Really.
Yeah. You've got all of these, you've got all these millennials who are all into succulents now because they're not that hard to raise. I think people should start getting olms for their desk.
People raise succulents at their desk?
Yeah, of course. Succulents, they're little plants with those thick little leaves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the olm, I should mention, has also become kind of a trademark, a popular mascot and symbol of Slovenia. So when you're there, you can get kind of souvenir stuffed olms. But I did not, to your question earlier, I did not see olms on any menus. So it might be a place for Slovenian chefs to start experimenting.
So they're not yums.
No, definitely not. Your first option in Slovenia is Postojna. But your second one, which is not that far away, just down the way, is called Shkocjan. Okay?
Shkocjan.
And Shkocjan, which is spelled Skocjan, This is a more strenuous and physical hike, so you're not going to get the ability to just ride a train through it. But what it does accomplish, it sort of finishes off in this extraordinarily huge and beautiful underground cavern. So there's an underground river that you hike on cliffs, and it's far below you. You can hear it, and you can actually look down and see traces of very early paths that are no longer open to the public. And you even walk across a suspended footbridge 150 feet in the air as the water rushes below you. So for people who are bathophobic, this is not the place for you because it is this tremendous, scary, and very inspirational and amazing canyon below the ground.
And this is the one that people think is not as worth visiting.
I mean, you will often see in guidebooks that Postojna is the one to go see. But I have to say, when Catherine and I had out this debate, I was very torn because I both wanted to guarantee myself seeing an Olm, this lizard you can only see there. But I also really wanted to see this last extraordinary canyon. And so I put them both in the Google Doc. But in the end, I convinced Catherine, and, all the more reason that I married her. We went to both of these systems. And I can tell you that I would say if you had to visit one, I would actually say the spectacular bridge walk and the depth and size of this Grand Canyon at Shkotsian is the right one to visit.
How old is this bridge? Is this from has it been rebuilt since they found the cave?
Well, yeah, it's a modern bridge. It feels very safe.
It feels safe.
Yeah, though
Okay.
it is actually an interesting combination of your fear of heights and of depths because it does tap into both of those. It's a bit scary, but it feels
Does
solid.
it move or is it solid?
Well,
it's not it's not like one of those bridges that's like made of rope and a couple of pieces of wood that kind of like move.
It is a footbridge, so it doesn't.
I don't know. Is that a type of bridge I should be aware of? That's like a real type of bridge. It's a footbridge.
Well, Ren, why don't you take a look at the picture and see if you think it looks solid enough for you?
No, I mean I think it looks like something like you have to walk across at the end of Lord of the Rings to for your final confrontation with the dragon. So that's why you like it, because you put on your little elf ears and you're you're living the dream down there.
Listen,
I don't want to leave, Catherine. We haven't gotten to the third ring of McGonagall,
McGonagall was a professor in Harry Potter. What is wrong with you? But Ryan, it is exactly that sense of magic and wonder that I think that you can get in caves. And I'm going to tell you, if you've got the time and you go to Slovenia, you should visit both Postojna and Shkotsian. But I do think that you get especially that kind of all of the 5 things that I love about caves if you visit Shkotsian particularly. So that's going to finish it up for Caves 101, Ryan. Well, I think it's time we get to the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan. So we're here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show. We do it every week. It's your favorite segment, my favorite segment. It's the People's segment, popularly known as the People's segment. And it's a moment where we pause, we reflect on the week that just went by. And even if we haven't been traveling, you happen to have been traveling, but in the week that just went by, we ask ourselves, what did we read or buy or do or cook or see or feel or smell that fed that spirit of wanderlust within us? Because we are travelers always. So Ryan, I want to know, do you have a last stop this week?
Yeah, I am just so amused by what is going on with the Mona Lisa. So the Mona Lisa, it's coming around to her 500th, the 500th anniversary of Leonardo's death. And so what they're doing is they are moving the Mona Lisa to a more permanent location in the Louvre, right? So it's going to be in this new location. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fantastic. But over the course of these months, while they're getting it set up, they have basically moved it to the middle of nowhere. That requires people to wait in a line to actually go up 3 escalators through a single doorway to see the Mona Lisa for a number of seconds before you are whisked away again. So people are waiting hours to see it. They're saying that 30,000 people a day are waiting in line to see the Mona Lisa. And, people are really angry. You can't get as close to it. You only get to spend a few seconds with it. People complaining that one of their favorite parts of the Mona Lisa was watching the eyes follow you, but you can't even get close enough now to see the eyes. This is, I think, a great example of over tourism, and the Louvre trying to do something about it, trying to move the Mona Lisa to a place where it would be more accessible. But in the meantime, have created chaos, and have a lot of angry tourists who have this on their bucket list and now can't even make out Mona Lisa's eyes.
So you used to be able to just have to like elbow your way into a giant crowd mob around it.
Right.
And now they force you to actually like get bottlenecked in.
Yeah. Up 3 sets of escalators through a single door to see the Mona Lisa from 15
and then you
feet
have
away.
Then the Sphinx stops you and you have to solve a riddle.
Yeah. If only. Yeah.
I'll tell you the riddle I'd always like to solve is, what is that lady smiling about?
That's one of the great mysteries.
Absolutely. So, I mean, again, just this could be a clever ruse to solve over tourism.
No,
if
really.
you make it miserable enough, people will stop visiting. But you know what? I bet you this was the minds that left WoW Air were hired by the Louvre, and they said, "Have we got
a job for you?
Have we got an idea for you?"
I love some of these quotes. Here's a quote from someone in the Times. "I need more time to watch the Mona Lisa. There are so many people in there, so the guards are pushing us. Go, go, go. That's not really good."
I also think you don't really watch the Mona Lisa. I think you look at it. I think you admire it. But it's not like she's going to move or wink at you. They haven't added that yet.
People say that the eyes follow you, Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. You know what made her famous, though? I didn't know this. She was, the painting was stolen in 1911 and got a lot of attention. And then when it was returned finally, it wasn't famous until it made a high-profile trip to the Met and the National Gallery in 1962 and 63. And that made the Mona Lisa this global media sensation. So much like the Beatles, Mona Lisa had to come to the United States to really, find her fame.
Well, there again is a brilliant idea. So just as it became more famous, the mobs came by putting him in these big open galleries. Now they're moving it closer and closer to the attic, and one day it'll just disappear into the rafters, and nobody will ever see it again.
People will be very disappointed because people have you ever seen the Mona Lisa?
Oh, absolutely, of course. Yeah. Go ahead.
I've never seen the Mona Lisa.
Oh, you're
in
kidding.
person. No.
I'll tell you the main impression that you would have is that it's a lot smaller than you probably think.
Right. That's what everybody thinks. And everyone's saying in the article, and they're saying it's even smaller because we have to stand so far away from it.
Far away. Well, okay. I maybe we could end with I've got just one extra idea.
Sure.
You mentioned that they have 3 escalators that lead to it.
Mm-hmm.
One word, ladders. You want to take out those escalators, put in a couple ladders. That's going to keep out the lame, the infirm, the elderly. You're going to cut those wait times in half.
So, Kiernan, do you have a last stop?
Thank you so much for asking me, Ryan. Yes, I do have a last stop. Have you ever seen the TSA's Instagram account?
It is one of the most brilliant Instagram accounts on the internet.
It's a fantastic Instagram account. I actually think maybe we haven't even talked about it on the pod, which I'm shocked at. Everybody should check it out. You would not expect that the Transportation Security Administration would naturally have the best Instagram account.
No, it's nice that they're doing something.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because what they do is they post all sorts of weird and wacky things that people have tried to bring through security, like canes that have swords hidden in them. And
or people asking like, can I bring this long sword with me? And people are like, no, you got to check your long sword.
Yeah, can I bring like nunchucks with blades sticking out the side? And
it's like when you go to a cave and you've got your whole Gandalf outfit, they're like, you got to check that, sir. You can't bring that magical wizard wand.
Well, so you're getting very close to what my last stop actually is. It's not Lord of the Rings related. It's not Harry Potter related.
Star Wars?
It is Star Wars related.
Oh my gosh, folks! He does have a child on the way.
So Ryan, I've been quite obsessed, and we're going to do an episode soon on the new Star Wars theme parks that are opening at the Disney properties in the U.S.
They built them. Are they identical?
They're not identical, but they are very similar. I mean, they tell the same story.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
The same story of Star Wars.
They're identical in the same way that like Tomorrowland in one is like Tomorrowland in the other, but there are differences in between them.
So it would be worth going both.
No. It wouldn't be. I think one's not open yet. Honestly, I'm not sure.
I've seen so many pictures from on people's Instagrams of the Star Wars. Star Wars one.
I'll tell you, from the Star Wars fan community, which I am an active part in,
Oh my God, folks!
if you could see Ryan's face, I will say it's been hit out of the park. Disney's apparently done a very good job, and one of the things that they did was, it's supposed to be actually, Ryan, right up your alley. It's supposed to be very immersive. So this is not just a theme park where you're going on a ride that simulates something you saw in the movie. You're supposed to be entering into the world of Star Wars, like you are a character. So there are stormtroopers walking around. There's aliens and droids, and even down to the products that you can buy in the park. They change from outside Galaxy's Edge to inside Galaxy's Edge.
Can you drink like butterbeer and stuff in the park?
My God, do you know this story? Because you're getting so close to it. Butterbeer, again, is a Harry Potter beverage.
Oh yeah.
But
this is owned by the same entity now, right? So there's no reason that why.
No, Harry Potter is not owned by Disney.
Not yet.
No, not yet. Actually, Disney passed over Harry Potter, and that was quite a big mistake.
So there's not ever going to be we're never going to get to see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Harry Potter like duel it out and
make out.
or make out, sure.
Oh, Liam Neeson's coming back, So when they were designing products for inside the park, the Imagineers at Disney were, of course, confronted with what happens when you have products that people know and love, like Coca-Cola, and they want it to be sold inside the park, but you have to make it look like Star Wars.
Yeah.
So what they did was they went to Coke and they came up with this idea where they made these super interesting bottles, these orbs that are regular Coca-Cola and Diet Coca-Cola. And the writing on it looks like the writing you see in Star Wars, which is a script that is different than our own. But it actually looks like a weapon that is used in the Star Wars movies. It's a very dangerous weapon called a thermal detonator. And I'll post a picture.
Doesn't anybody in Star Wars like just drink beverages? Like, would that be unusual? Like, isn't there like a cantina? Isn't there like a scene in a cantina where somebody shoots first?
Yeah, you're right. Drinking actually is a big part, but I don't think we ever see an off-the-shelf drink. I think
you never see them like at a 7-Eleven and Han's like,
no,
I gotta grab this Coca-Cola. Yeah,
oh, boy.
In Star Trek, you know where they get their food from. They get it from that machine. They go like, "Give me some food," and then the comes right out.
I don't know anything about that. So we're talking to Star Wars.
I'm the dork here.
These orbs of Coca-Cola, they're lightly branded with Coca-Cola, and they look like thermal detonators.
Right.
And somebody pinged the TSA Instagram account and said, "Hey, can I bring this thermal detonator Coke bottle from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge on the plane?" They said, "Thank you for asking, but replica and inert explosives aren't allowed in either carry-on or checked bags." So they were saying you couldn't even check an empty Coca-Cola bottle that looked like a Star Wars thermal detonator.
Because what does a Star Wars thermal detonator look like when you're running it through an X-ray machine on the way, when you're... I mean, they can't train people to look up mythological detonators.
No, that's true. And actually, in Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia did threaten Jabba the Hutt with a thermal detonator. She was, of course, as you know, she was undercover as a bounty hunter at that time. And sure enough, I remember Jabba react so strongly that the TSA surely must have been taking their cue from that scene, because this detonator clearly, or maybe they were just afraid that it was a Coke that had been shaken up a lot, cause a real mess on the planes. No one can know. But happily, the TSA has finished their review of the Coca-Cola bottle, and they now say that you can bring these souvenir Coca-Cola bottles back onto planes. Officers have said that they are treating them as oversized liquids. So they have to be empty, but you can bring the bottle on.
But the Coca-Cola isn't special. It's not like Star Wars Coke or something.
No, it's regular Coke, which I would find disappointing. Also, why would you make a weapon? I thought it was very weird myself. I don't think it was a good idea.
All right.
But I'm setting up. I'm trying to get an interview with a Star Wars expert that visited, and we can get his thoughts on the thermal detonator Coca-Cola brand inside Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Boy, that is a lot of words.
I don't know if I can make that episode, but
No, we're all hoping you might be able to skip it. But Ryan, one episode that I feel that you can't skip is next week's, because you have a great interview lined up.
I do. Next week on the pod, we are talking to Hatch Escapes co-founder Tommy Wallach about what it's like to own and operate an escape room in Los Angeles. And we're going to talk about what escape rooms are and why they're such a big deal and why I can't stop doing escape rooms everywhere I go. So
is that true? Do you love escape rooms?
I love escape. I've done them so many times. You know, it's going to be embarrassing how many escape rooms Tommy and I mutually have done. So
the thing that I find so weird about escape rooms is like you kind of thought that we had kind of cracked the code of everything, like every attraction that could be created.
Right.
But these are a new phenomenon in just the past like 5-10 years.
Yeah, we're going to learn all about the history of them because it's sort of fascinating how escape rooms happened. And, you know, I think a lot has to do with the fact that people play video games and they want another way to collaborate with their friends. And this gives them that sort of real life experience. And let me tell you, unlike a cave, you're going to sweat in an escape room.
Very cool.
Until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
The seat taken.
Kiernan, are there any caves in the Star Wars universe?
Of course there are caves in the Star Wars universe.
Is that where Jabba the Hutt lives?
No, Jabba the Hutt, he lives on Tatooine in a citadel, but he does take his skiff to the Great Pit of Carcoon, which is where the Sarlacc lives.
Sure.
And I think that would qualify as a cave.
And he does have a slow metabolism.
Good point.